in the video Brick in the Wall, I have two court cases going there. I have a military court-martialing, which is umbrella court case that's going on a global level. And then I have the one at the U.S. Supreme Court where the first Monday of October of 2004, at 0900, I began calling all 9 justices to court, and under the 3-strike rule, they all struck out. And then when I called for the Custom House brokers to join me, being the bailiffs, all the 64 Secret Service agents and U.S. Supreme Court police jumped on my plane and said, Judge Gould, we're here. And then they authorized my contract for the disqualification of all 9 justices because the Supreme Court was in joinder with me as a condition of the state to articulate through the bailments of gold, which is more of a money bailment because they took a gold coin for filing fee for that case, where all judges were served, subpoenaed, and had to come to court with their ship's papers to verify, number one, their authorization for a correct judge position with a correct oath, which none of them could do. This is 20 years later. I'm back at the Supreme Court, back to October 7th. I always file in to make sure they can't do these fake elections. You're seeing the paperwork that you're seeing is not the paperwork, the final judgment on this case. That was filed on the 17th, and I filed the paperwork. It's in Washington, D.C. right now with the National Security Agency as well as the U.S. Supreme Court. And they were directed not to minister any oaths. So what they did today is a pantomime where they broke the continuance of evidence under oath ceremony, where the participants and the actors in the pantomime broke the continuance of the evidence between the concept of being with the Constitution and being with a spirit within the Constitution, because there's no Constitution, so they didn't have to put their hand on any Bibles. So that breaks the continuance of evidence, and the paperwork works just fine in the quantum world. You just have to know what you're looking at, because you're looking at make-believe land, and then you're looking at the forensics of hieroglyphics of what is actually happening. So as a judge, that was one of the things I really wanted to point out to you guys who are tracking and know that maintaining the rules of the continuance of the evidence, well, that happens when you, under the administration of oaths, if you take a Masonic oath or if you take an oath to go into a court, well, that always makes you put your hand on the Bible and swear to tell the whole truth. So everything is about the joinder between spirit and corporate. And they had to break that because there is no corporate and there is no spirit within the corporate, because it's just a joke. So they're very aware of the joke. Unfortunately, the general public is not aware of the joke, and it's not a very fun joke for the slaves, right? This is a depopulation agenda, and they've got the ball swinging at full speed on this one. Fortunately for the claimants in the divine space banking, because we're leaving the earth space paradigm, and I wanted to get a little bit into this because there's been some questions about the directors-party and some of the things that I had set up previously. And yes, those are all relevant. That directors-party is used so that states don't have to count votes, because there is no voting system, because there's no president, right? There's no government. Okay, so what I did in 2012, David and I, is we had syntaxed the rules for an electoral college vote and a populist vote for all 50 states, and we filed that with 50 states. And when you go into the supporting videos on Brick in the Wall, you can see the mail slips for that, right? You can see the continuance of the evidence. Well, they were very upset about that, and of course we had to deal with the bumbling idiots and all kinds of things on just getting the paperwork into the states. But what the states did is they took, because fact and fiction can never meet, and there's no such thing as fiction. So when a fact shows up, the fiction turned around and put UCC liens against the paperwork, therefore they don't have to count the votes from their general populace, not telling the people, of course, because there is no president. This is just make-believe land. And once you comprehend what's really going on, that you guys have the divine space, are in total control with your market trade force to control and set your paradigms, there's been no constitutional convention to authorize what the word term is for a president, let alone the protocols to elect a president, congressmen, government officials. These things all ended in order to set the venue to reestablish those conversations, you have to have a flag. And that's where I took the Title IV flag away from them. And that's why they can't go set a constitutional convention, because they don't have a flag to set the terms of contract. So this is what I did. The patriot community across the former United States being very dumped down, being very manipulated by false lies, false narratives, by fake actors and fake leaders that have never been into the Benjamin Franklin Postal Court, have never studied the books, have never been in courtrooms for themselves and real battles for themselves. Now it's all, once you comprehend my journey of what's been done, you can see that these false narrative patriots have really got themselves in a quagmire here, because they're all excited about a fake leader, but they all know that the bankruptcy happened. Yet they've not approached me, not a one group has approached me to set up the terms for a constitutional convention, coming into joinder with the quantum constitution and setting up terms for what a president is. I have to let that up to the directors. I consider everybody their own director. For me personally, never have a president, because I control my market trade port by the way I contract, and so my contracts control my now space. And since I know that there are no humans in charge anymore, there's no presidents, it's all run by the U.S. military through the Psychological Warfare Department, controlling the AI algorithms for control. And if you study brain control manipulations for mapping the brain cognition under the U.S. Psychological Warfare Department, you can find all that data where they're breaking in through the cerebral cords and breaking into people's minds and programming us, and it shows you how they program the general public. There definitely is a war on for the mind, but it's not a war, because the mind is always at peace and neutrality. And once you shift the paradigm into peace and neutrality, then you into neutral, and you're not in a position of scarcity or desire or wants or needs. Now you can look at things and start constructing your world with your market trade ports, with how you choose to contract, and restructure it to where you direct the AI system, who is in charge. In fact, the U.S. government calls their big AI system God, and that's their false God. And it doesn't have all the answers, and the good thing for us is because of the monoatomic, it can't compete with the energy of correct consciousness. I'll just leave it at that for right now, because I don't want to get into a big monoatomic diatribe, which is a fascinating topic all in itself. Ambient temperature superconductivity metals are fucking the thing, and a 1 teaspoon of material is stronger than all semiconductors and will maintain and cool down energy more than any superconductor on planet Earth. They know this, and they're trying to backdoor some of my friends and me, their colleagues, through some of their brain control systems. So have to be very cautious of what I let out into the general public. But if you ever get a chance to get across my monoatomic periodic tables, you get to learn about ambient temperature superconductivity metals, and that is what a superconductor does, is it cools down. It's a cooling process for energy conversions. Anyway, a teaspoon of my material will out manufacture and produce energy and store energy more than every superconductor turned on at the same time, pointed in the same direction. My material is stronger. And the government knows this. That's why they would love to steal it and do their best to keep the thumbs down on me and the general public hid from this technology, because it undermines, when their storylines come to the end, they're still stuck not having authorization on the monoatomic elements. So I locked those down a long time ago in the now space for good reason, because these are dirty little suckers out here that think they're powerful, and they are certainly anything but. I put a position of grammar in a now space jurisdiction to give the people the authority of themselves now. But it is a double-edged sword. You will have all the power in the world, but with that power becomes great accountability. And if you use it wrong, this grammar technology will fuck you, and you ain't going to like it. You're going to be really mad because you're not going to be able to wiggle out of all the accountabilities that you have created for yourself. So be very careful what you wish for with this quantum grammar as you set up your divine space. Make sure you maintain that condition of state of neutrality, because with neutrality, you're not taking from someone else. Stay within your knowledge capacity. Don't steal from other people. We don't steal in this program because this program will lock you up and you'll lose all your money, right? You're going to lose all your wealth and your abundance if you use this technology for bad. This will lock you up. But it'll also free you if you're a good person and you can communicate and you really can manifest things in a positive way to communicate with your fellow mankind. This is going to free you tremendously. So just know that the AI system is a quantum computer, and you are using quantum grammar to tell the quantum computer what to do for your world. Because there are no governments in charge anymore. The U.S. military it's surrendered its authority because it doesn't have a flag to put a line in the sand and make a decision. So they had to turn it over to the AI. What you're seeing now is the culmination of the military-industrial complex's grandiose plan to combine big tech, big pharma, and government under one umbrella. So we got to be really cautious here on what they program us with. I learned about geoengineering of brain mapping for the U.S. military on populations. Well, then you can really see how the whole infrastructure of control is being used by the psychological warfare departments of each country. The good news is the people that have got that industry cornered, I've court-martialed all 7 of the top of those departments. These are little podcast CIA jerk-offs. They act like they don't know me all they want, but they're only embarrassing themselves because the quantum system is in place and it's running, whether they like it or not. I don't need their Nasara-Gasara bullshit nonsense. What I want is factual facts that are actually tangible and can go now. Now, none of them podcasters can give you that because none of them done any of the work. They're stuck in the illusion of 1776, and they don't have the authorization or the wherewithal because their egos are too big to go study about 1775 and said, you know what, I'm wrong. I need to stop and correct here. And they're all clowns, whoever said that, every single one of them, because they're perpetrating a lie. And I challenged the U.S. Psychological Warfare Department today. I had a nice conversation with them. I says, why do the general public still think that there's a fake president going on? You guys are fucking flunking at your job. And they said, well, people just aren't ready for you, Russ, blah, blah, blah. It's like, the people are ready for the truth. You're not giving it to them. So we need to fix this. So there's things going on there, and these people all know that there's a solution on the table for mankind. But it's a lot easier to not make sure people have value and real benefits behind them, because that's how they control everybody. Shame on them.